Plan International Canada has released new data revealing that perceptions of gender inequality reach a tipping point in the critical time of a girl's life, when she enters womanhood. Between the ages of 18 and 24, young women in Canada report feeling less equal because of their gender, and that their confidence reaches a low. And those sentiments only improve marginally over a woman's adult life. So joining us now to tell us more is Caroline Riseborough, President and CEO of global girls' rights organization Plan International Canada. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
In a survey, your organization found that less than half of Canadian young women aged 18 to 24 say they feel as equal, and nearly the same amount said they feel less than equal. Was this surprising to you in this day and age?
I mean, I think it is. I mean, we know from our work around the world that, this kind of tipping point between girlhood and womanhood is a really critical time. And that girls are oftentimes very vulnerable to things like child marriage or gender-based violence or even pregnancy-related complications. That's the second leading cause of death. But, we would suspect that here in Canada, the statistics would be different. But what we found is that while the issues are different, this sort of cusp between moving to girlhood to womanhood is a really vulnerable time for them.
Why do you think young women lack confidence in their leadership abilities?
We didn't actually kind of probe this in the data. I think this will sort of be the next step now. But I mean, what I hear from all of the young women that we work with here in Canada is that, oftentimes they're told as they're in high school that they can be anything, they can do anything, and that they should set their aspirations high. And this is why we found that for the most part, the majority of teenagers, female teenagers, felt equal to men. But then as soon as they kind of go out into the working world or the academic world, I think they start to face the realities that are out there, the systemic gender biases that we all face as women. And so they're sort of being told one thing, but then their experience is something else. And this is where then less than half of them said that they felt equal to their male counterparts. So there's a huge drop at that time.
So do they not believe that their ideas are taken as seriously as boys or men's?
They actually don't, and this is what we found in the survey data. So they really felt that their opinions were taken less seriously. They started to change the way they behaved. They even started to change the way they looked so that they would be taken more seriously. They became more afraid to actually put their opinions out there. So this was all revealed in the data, and it was actually quite shocking what a difference you see between sort of teenagehood or girlhood and womanhood. The stats around their confidence and their opportunity and ability to lead drop.
Well, tell us about some of the key findings then, because I found this one shocking, that 61% of young women aged 18 to 24 have never received mentorship. And that number jumps to 67% of women aged 25 plus. Of all respondents over the age of 18, 70% said they had never been a mentor to other women and girls. So is it a lack of support among women?
I think the stats are interesting because we know kind of from a broader standpoint that when you are mentored, you are 30% more likely to achieve leadership roles. And so the stats were quite disturbing to find that so few girls and young women had received mentorship, or even that they were mentoring others, because then what that means is it will hold them back from leadership roles out in the workplace and further on in their career. So, again, I think that this is sort of a real call to action for us to say that, we've got to do things differently. We have to make more of an effort, both men and women, to mentor young girls in the workplace, to kind of reaffirm their ability to lead and their opinions, because obviously they're feeling like they need to change themselves once they get out there into the working world and their confidence is taking a hit.
Well, I think we've heard this in various forms in the past number of years, but nothing seems to be changing. So How do we change it? How is Plan International Canada trying to change the conversation and encourage young girls to reach their full potential? And what can any of us, besides what you're doing, what can the rest of us do?
I mean, I think one thing is we just need to get the data out there, and that's so important. So, thrilled that we're talking about this today because we have to raise awareness around the issue. So that's the first step. The second step, and we were really calling on people during International Women's Day, but I think this can't just be one day. This literally has to be every day of the week.
Right.
We were calling on people to start having the critical conversation. So whether it's within your family unit, whether it's within your school or your workplace, and what we've done is we've prepared a discussion guide. So you can go to our site, plancanada.ca/IWD for International Women's Day. So plancanada.ca/IWD. And you can download our discussion guide, which will actually help to start exploring these issues and also start solutioning together around how we can do things differently. And, of course, we'd love for Canadians from all walks of life to join with us at Plan to continue to tackle these gender inequalities that don't just harm girls and women, they actually harm men and boys too.
So what are some practical ways that people can incite change and take action for gender equality? I mean, should students in high school go to the principal and say, we need some mentors, find us some mentors out in the community? Do they go to city council and say, we need mentors at school? I mean, what can we do?
I mean, I think the answer to all of that is yes and yes and yes again.
And yes again, yeah.
So, I mean, I think that this is where, oftentimes young women, what we're finding from the data, are scared to even go out and ask. And so I think, mentorship is a great first start. And obviously when you have a mentor, you feel more confident putting your ideas forward. And I think what's happened is sometimes, women and girls are not used to asking for things. We aren't socialized that way. So we're even afraid to kind of get out there and say, listen, we need mentors. And then I think too, overcoming some of the fear. And I think as we're aware of the issues, we can actually change our approach. So what I would say to young women and girls is sort of what I say to them all the time. Put your opinions forward. Make sure that you're at the table and really, overcome sometimes that those thoughts in your head that would hold you back, and just put yourself out there because you have something valuable to give, and we want to hear from you.
I think everybody has something valuable to give. I should tell you that I've been contacted my whole career from young women who've emailed me and said, I'm sure you're going to say no, but I would love to be able to get together with you and have you look at my project or talk to you about the business or whatever. And so I've mentored countless people. And so I would say, send an email. Send an email. You'll likely not get the no that you think you're going to get. I think people would love to do that.
And I think, part of it goes back to really how we're socialized. So oftentimes boys are kind of encouraged to ask for what they want and girls not as much. And so it's sometimes not an uncomfortable place to be even to ask for a mentor.
Well, listen to Caroline. Go and ask for what you want. Exactly. Email Caroline and she will mentor you, right?
Exactly. And, I think too, beyond mentoring though, to make women aware of some of the issues that are out there. So, holding themselves back or not bringing really their full selves to the table. Sometimes we can just counteract things by being aware of the issues.
Exactly. Aware of the issues. And hopefully if you get a good mentor, she'll kick your butt and tell you, right? What to be aware of and to go and ask for what you want and to make your voice heard and say, excuse me, I had something to say.
Exactly.
Right?
And I think, part
this
of
is great.
The fear with the Me Too movement that we saw is that a lot of men now are shy or kind of holding back in terms of mentoring or working closely with young women. So
because they're afraid that they will be assigned sort of dubious motives.
Right. And so, I would say to men in particular too, because they often hold a lot of the positions of power, is don't be afraid to mentor young women as well.
Well, I'm so happy, Caroline, that you joined us today, that you have brought this conversation to light, and hopefully people who are listening will have that conversation with the women in their lives or the children in their lives and, the men in their lives, and we'll get this going.
Great. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Well, she said